Hey everyone, it's Professor Lushine, and this is the Week 10 review for Safety 43683. So I'm going to discuss what happened this last week with the loss run data analysis, and then kind of look forward to next week. What's awesome is we're almost done. Yeah, almost there, everybody. As far as we didn't have any quizzes, we didn't have anything turned in other than the loss run data analysis update. And so the numbers are looking pretty good. For the online section, you guys actually had a blip up, which I'm really proud of you. As far as the undergrads go, we've got, actually we have quite a few missing, so maybe we shouldn't celebrate too soon on the blip that came up. And my classroom group had a little bit more of an issue than the online. And so I was wondering why. And so I looked at the time and touches. And as you can see, even though we met in the classroom and we discussed it and did some stuff, they need to be accessing the website more. And I think that's what's reflecting here in those numbers. So a couple of reminders, a couple of comments that I noticed. Make sure that you do your work in Excel, but then bring it over to Word, Microsoft Word, for the assignment. Some of you are just uploading your Excel and saying, here you go. No, you're making me search and find it, and I'm seeing issues. So make sure, I want to see what you can do when you copy and paste. Some of you did some amazing work. So if some of you are confused by that, let me know. I'll reach out to those students that killed it this week and ask if I can share a copy of their work. Don't lose sight on the purpose of the assignment. The purpose of the assignment is to determine the performance of the safety program and make recommendations to management. That's what we're working up to. I just want you to make sure you have that in the back of your mind. I want you to be taking note of what you're doing and learning in Excel. And a few students asked me some questions on how a table was made. It was the exact same premise, the same design as what we had built that week. But because I didn't demonstrate step by step on how to build it, they were lost. And that kind of confuses me. How they're unable to extrapolate what we did, and they didn't have enough understanding of it to be able to recreate it in a different place in the Excel sheet. Make sure you're always trying to understand why you're doing it, how to do it, and what the results are. That sounds weird. It sounded better when I first made it. So from this week, we investigated the accident location. We already kind of determined the performance of the safety program. Now we're leading to where should we make recommendations, and in addition to that, how much money can we request given the data set that was provided to us. So I have on the screen here top 20%, we're looking at the Pareto ratio and what it represented. This is with outliers removed. So this is actually going to be higher if you put it into context. So some of you had issues with copying and pasting. Work more on that. You don't have to provide all the columns, and they should be still justified and look good. Down here, I tried to do it in a green. It didn't come over very well. This is for the accident source. And then we also created the new variable. Maybe this helps. Maybe this will help you. So what we're doing is we're trying to come up with priorities, things we want to trend and forecast later. And so we have the common variable, the column or variable, and we either fill it manually or we do a pivot table on it and see what sort of categories there are, what kind of entries there are for it. Then we do the count if for the count. We do the percent by taking the cell divided by the total count. We type that in. We do a sum if with the variable range, so the original variable, the cell for the variable for that row, and then the paid range. So it's paid medical, paid indemnity, paid LAE, and paid total. For the percent total paid, it's the cell of the total paid divided by, we type in the total amount, the overall total amount. For the average, we take the cell of the total paid divided by the cell of the count. And then the RPN is the cell of the percent total paid. That should be multiplied. Yeah, it's the percent of the total paid multiplied by the percent total count. Sorry, that's multiply. We multiply those together to get our RPN, or risk priority number. Then we, first of all, we have to check our work. So we have a totals row on the bottom. We do the equal sum to make sure it equals what it's supposed to, and we should have checkpoints in a table right above that, the descriptive table we've been bringing with us. And then we sort the data in the table, not the header or the total rows, but the rest of the data. We highlight it, manually go to sort. We sort by RPN, highest to low. And then what we try to do is Now that it's been ranked, try to figure out what are 20% of the categories or entries, and does it result in about 20% or 80% of the count and or the total paid. And we can go a little bit higher, a little bit lower as we need to try to get that. And then there's also sort of the natural break given by the RPN, the magnitude of the RPN. Then we created a new cause. Now, why did we do that? Because some of the accident source descriptions are very, very similar. They sound like a similar cause. And the way I think about it is that if we're going to use the same technique to assess it, let's combine those. I think it's a better way to do it. So we did that, and it usually helps us in the next step, and that is when we trend and forecast either like a policy class code or an accident department or accident location, having a more broad parent code. But unfortunately, that didn't work out for us. And then the other question was, what are the outlier claims different? I have the comparison right here. I did it with all three of the variables we're interested in: the accident department, accident source description, and the new code, and found that, just with three of these, we're already getting 80% of the count and 75.8% of the total paid. So the outliers, even the prioritized, a smaller focus group tends to represent a majority. The outliers would have been covered had we had left them in the data, which means they aren't that different. They're there. The biggest difference is how much they ultimately cost. For this week, we've got 4 videos. They are a little bit longer because in the office hours, the students requested it. And so I will review the progress, kind of what I'm doing now, but more specifically get into it and kind of nail some things down that I had heard about, that you had questions about. And then we will forecast the accident department and the new code to show that it's not a viable approach to this. There's nothing really to bring to management. It's just too parsed out. And then we're going to default to I analyzed the top 10 accident departments. You don't have to go that far. At least do the top 6 though, because we had an interesting cutoff there. And then I did a looking ahead to return on investment, because you may as well do it this week because it is so simple. No quiz this week, no other assignments, no other readings either. I cut those out, I put them to next week so you can really just focus on getting basically to the end point. After this, it's just it's basically the results table, and then determining how we want to present it to management. So this was the accident department number 1, or mix on your list. As you can see, the numbers are going down, the total's going up, but look at the R-square values aren't great. They're not good. Look how far apart the dots are. See, it goes down to almost nothing and then it shoots up. That's not reliable. That's not a good thing to bring to management. And so these were the numbers. This is just the number 1 accident department. When I then evaluated by overexertion, it got no better. It's still, the R-square values aren't good. This is really low, and then it jumps up in 2021. That's not enough evidence to go to management to say, yeah, it's going to cost this much and we should probably invest this much. And there's no outliers included here. Just didn't work out very well. So here's repetitive motion. This is much better, as you can see. So this is the overall total claims. This is repetitive motion. So the dots are a little bit off. The R-square isn't great, but there's some consistency here. The line is above and below. The line is, we have dots above and below the line. That's what I meant to say. For the amount total paid, it's much better R-square, better than anything we've seen with the department. And it goes out to there. Average still is representative. I put in the 2 types. Which one did I want to go with? I decided to go with the trend because it looks pretty good. And it's not too much different than the annual average here. Also, we've got 281,000 and change in outliers that are not included in this estimate. So the decent R-square value and representation to forecast, and the massive amount of outliers, and because it's such a small number anyway, I felt confident with going with the 24,000 versus the 19.5. In my videos, I'll explain how I went about each decision. And then I've got other information about just the repetitive motion claims, and I can also get the repetitive motion average from Wisconsin and put it here. We can kind of look at that too. Again, this is indemnified claims, whereas this is mostly medical only, which is why ours is so much lower. If we were to tack the Oh, that might be fun for you to do next week. And maybe we'll do that next week. We'll put the outliers back in and see how close we get to that 8,000. That might be kind of cool. So next week, we're going to get back to some form of normality. That's not the proper term. Some form of normal. Normal curve, right? I've got three really great videos, a discussion between Ron Gant, Jeffrey Dalto, and myself. I thought it was really good. I think it's interesting. We went in some interesting directions, and I really try to keep us in control as far as not going off into massive tangents. I thought it was really good. I may actually have a third as well. Risk manager from the state of Wisconsin is willing to possibly record a short 5-question interview, and I think that'll be helpful and kind of complement what we're doing. So then we'll have the results table. So I think there'll be one, if maybe 2 short demonstration videos, and then the lecture videos. There'll be a quiz, and we'll be really getting back into it. And I'm also providing 2 articles, one by Fred Manuel, the other by someone I think they come from Behavioral Science Technology. And it's about the serious injury and fatality theory or movement. And I'm not in full agreement with it yet. I'll put some comments into my video that I create for next week and kind of premising it. Yeah, it's relevant to our question about are the outlier claims similar to or different than the remaining non-outlier claims. So I believe that's it. If you got any questions, please reach out to me. You guys are doing a great